Stephanie Hammill. She's from the Daily Caller, one of the great conservative websites in the United States, and she joins us now from DC. Good morning. Good evening our time. How are you?
Good morning, Paul. I'm doing well. This is a little bit earlier than I normally wake up. I do the afternoon shift at work. So
well, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, darling. I appreciate it. Now let's get to all of this because
I love your Trump segment, the Trump time. That's pretty catchy.
Thank you, mate. We're trying to get, it's Trump's time. It's the time in history, and it's time to talk about him on the telly. So let's talk about him with you. What I love here is that, as you know, the media is trying to present this fait accompli that he can't win the 4 industrial states that helped get him over the line last time. He can't win in Pennsylvania. He can't win in Ohio at the very least, right? Those numbers are all terrible for him. So Electoral College, don't worry about it. Push all that to one side because Diamond Joe is going to be able to get there. The creepy grandpa, the bloke who has run for president 750 times and got worse every time he runs, is the inevitable winner of the middle-class vote. The only problem is, then he opened his mouth.
Yeah, I think that they had high expectations for our former Vice President Joe Biden, but as we're learning, he just really doesn't have what it takes. And you pointed out that there's, I guess, if you will, like doom and gloom when they talk about Trump going into 2020, that he can't win this, he can't win that. But we've already heard that all before, Paul. As you recall, even on Election Day, people believed that Hillary Clinton was going to win by like 90%. And so we learned that. And so obviously they haven't learned anything this time around because, again, the Democrats are literally taking everything out of Hillary Clinton's old playbook. If you look at just talking about the Me Too stuff, if you look at, calling President Trump names like a racist and a white supremacist and all these other things, now they're actually insulting his voters. So if they want to try to get voters to support them or independents, calling President Trump and his supporters white supremacists and racists isn't going to help lure them over to their side.
Well, but also, I mean, Stephanie, you've seen this. You see this at the Daily Caller, and this happens here in places like Australia. Yes, far-flung, Wild West that it would be the Australian politics, right? Which is the left, right? So we all know what Nazi is. We all know what a white supremacist is. And then they sort of redefine it to the white nationalist, and then it'll be to somebody who is a white exceptionalist, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They just keep changing the term, broadening the definition and lowering the bar until eventually anyone who believes in borders, languages and culture, border language and culture, as the great Michael Savage would say, they're part of the problem. If you believe in the red, white and blue, be it your version or ours, you're part of the problem. If you remember World War II and who the good guys were, you're part of the problem.
Yeah, I think what they're doing is very dangerous, and they're also watering down real racism. And when they try to lump everyone together, then we can't really identify the real white supremacists and the real racists, which is a problem and something that we don't support. I mean, the group that they're speaking of is a very small fringe group. I'm thinking of there was a protest and a rally in D.C. with some of the so-called white supremacists, and there was like 4 people there. Antifa showed up, and then Antifa started tearing down the city. So it's just interesting how much focus that the mainstream media puts on this fringe group, and they're actually elevating them and bringing them to the conversation and giving them a platform, which is totally appalling.
Can I just ask, it might be...
CNN interviewed Richard Spencer. I mean, that was just like, I think like a month ago. Can you believe it? If I interviewed Richard Spencer, I would be banned from polite society. But if CNN does it, it's okay.
Well, but also we see this here too, where we see it with Facebook, Google, the deplatforming that eventually becomes sort of a depersoning of people like Gavin McInnes and others, that if they can find some sort of a tangential connection in your friend tree to either somebody who can be declared the worst or somebody who is the worst, then bang, that's it, you don't exist anymore. Which is bizarre in a country like yours where freedom of speech is written in those rights. It's up the front, which means you can say whatever the heck you like, but of course that doesn't apply to Facebook, Google, YouTube, etc., because they find a way just to push you off the planet.
Yeah, I mean, some people, I don't mind that they're not on the internet. I mean, Louis Farrakhan, he had Twitter, and he's an anti-Semite, so I don't really miss him. But it took Twitter a while to take him down, and he was embraced by the left. There's pictures of him with Barack Obama, our former president, and I think some of the people that you just cited, I think that they have been treated extremely unfairly by social media, and if you don't think you're next, you're wrong. I have a great example of this. I had a video that was my pinned tweet for quite some time. It was of me shooting an AR-15 pistol that was a Christmas present given to me from my dad. And, after the 2 mass shootings, I'm sure you heard about them recently, all of a sudden my video was removed off of Twitter. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it, but why as a video that with a legal gun, why would they remove my video if that's what happened? So I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I reposted it, but it's very suspicious because it wasn't even in my timeline. It was just totally gone. And that's never happened to me on any other video.
Well, correct, but we all know the left loves to play dibber-dobber, as we would say here, where they'll try and sort of report you to the principal and hope that something happens to you at head office. Now, let's talk about Jeffrey Epstein, because obviously it has nothing to do with 2020, but it has consumed the media world, and understandably those of us that talk for a living. Well, am I allowed to ask you directly whether you believe the official story or not?
There's just so much. Of course, you can ask me. There's so much that we don't know, and I don't want to be, that person who's speculating, because there's just we haven't seen the surveillance video. We haven't seen this and that. I will say that several months ago, you'd hear people joke that Epstein was going to, commit suicide, or that he would never make it to a trial, and all of these other things. Maybe these people didn't really expect that to happen, but it did. I mean, he's allegedly committed suicide. I think that you don't want to speculate who did what, whether or not he committed suicide, but you can, ask some questions, which is, somebody that already attempted suicide, why weren't they monitored more closely? Why were they taken off suicide watch? Where is the surveillance video? You would think in this Manhattan jail, which has strong security, et cetera, you'd think that they'd have all of their ducks in a row. So now we're hearing that their staff was overworked. They were working 70-hour weeks. Then we're hearing news stories that the guards, their story didn't really add up. This was this morning that I just read about that. So it is concerning. They should have done everything in their power and put all of their resources into making sure that this high-profile person that they need information from was alive for when they would have a trial. And what's more concerning, or what people are really upset about, is that the idea that he has so much information that he could have potentially taken down very high-profile people. And what about the victims? The victims, they still want to have their day in court, and they deserve justice.
Well, Stephanie, we're glad we're talking to you. We're particularly glad we're watching you in HD right now. Skype doing beautiful things for you. You can read our stuff on the Daily Caller's website. Last one I want to ask you here is in part some of the reaction to what happened with Epstein, though, that while you quite correctly said, look, let's wait and see what the facts are before we're going to get anywhere here, the media more than happy just to run in the craziest of areas here, where, all sorts of people were potentially responsible here, and if they could find the smallest of connections back to Donald Trump. And I love how they show footage from an entertainment show back in the late 90s where he's standing next to him. But Bill Clinton flew on the Lolita Express, 27 times?
Yeah, exactly. So they're twisting themselves into pretzels to try to make some sort of President Trump connection to Jeffrey Epstein. They forget to mention that, President Trump, at the time of Donald Trump, had banned him from Mar-a-Lago because he had acted inappropriately with some of the staff there. And this clip that you're talking about was MSNBC video. It was President Trump at some event, and Jeffrey Epstein was there. But MSNBC, they forget to mention that they were the ones filming it and glamorizing the party, and also giving Jeffrey Epstein a platform. So they're complicit, and they also took issue with Donald Trump dancing, because apparently we should just ban dancing, right? They were upset that he was closely dancing with women, because I didn't know that you had to dance next to people, several feet apart. These people in the mainstream media are totally out of control. They think that we don't remember that Bill Clinton was chummy with Jeffrey Epstein, but we don't forget, and we'll continue to talk about that.
All right. Great to talk to you. Let's do it again. All the best, and thanks for getting up nice and early for us in Washington today. Stephanie, all the best.
Thank you, Paul.
See you, darling. Stephanie Hammill, Daily Caller, video columnist. You can see the website dailycaller.com, all of her socials, etc., etc. We'll put up on our Facebook page. Nice to have a chat with her.